from 2014. Ukraine Prime Minister has resigned, and the turmoil in the civil war ravaged nation continues. It was not what Arseniy Yatsenyuk inherited when he overthrew the previous legitimately elected government of Viktor Fedorovych Yanukovych. Russia had declared the government illegitimate when he first overthrew Yanukovych on trumped-up charges following social unrest fed by Yatsenyuk. Russia had subsequently reclaimed the Crimea in order to secure her naval dockyards. In some ways, it appears as if Putin had Obama's blessing in securing the dockyard as a quid pro quo favor for not damaging Obama's reelection in 2012. 6 months of the inept government of Yatsenyuk, who favored closer European Obama-friendly ties while distancing himself from Russia, and Ukraine lost Crimea and the dockyards. A civil war began, and a civilian aircraft was shot from the skies of what Yatsenyuk would belatedly call a war zone. Had Yatsenyuk alerted Malaysian Airways to the war zone in advance, the airplane would not have been shot down. But then Ukraine would not have been able to press the international community to get the Ukrainian separatists to stand down. Now, relatives of victims in Australia awaiting a finding of the shooting being either a war crime, a crime against humanity, or a terrorist strike. A rule of thumb is that each dead passenger is worth $600,000 insurance, but legal issues could easily eat into that sum so that there could be no compensation after years of litigation. It is unlikely that the incident will be declared terrorism, which would favour families of the victims with an Australian government payout. Families of the victims, because Yatsenyuk declared it belatedly a war zone. For it to be an act of terror, it would need to be shown that Ukraine fired the rockets to implicate Russia, and then it won't matter that Yatsenyuk resigned today. In 1934, we saw the difference between fascism and Nazism. Austria's diminutive Chancellor Dollfuss had stymied Austrian Nazis. Italy, under Mussolini, promised to protect Austria from the Nazis. While Mussolini had been hosting Dollfuss's wife, the Nazis assassinated Dollfuss as part of an attempted coup on this day. It failed as Mussolini guaranteed protection of Austria. He denounced Nazis as being little different to Stalinists. On this day, in 306, Constantine I was made Caesar by his Roman legions. They had wanted to make his dad Caesar, but his dad had died. He would rule and build for 31 years. His mother had a strong impact on his life, and she had become Christian. She predeceased him by some 7 years, but she seemed to have had a strong say in the execution of his son and wife for immoral behavior. Constantine had himself baptized shortly before his death. He seemed to have done so tactically, as he seemed to be on the impression it would absolve him of his pre-baptismal sin. So he was no theologian. In 315, the Arch of Constantine was built in honor of a battle. In 1261, Constantinople was re-established as capital of the Byzantine Empire after a battle. In 864, Charles the Bald ordered defensive measures against Vikings. In 1456, Italians had learned to use firearms. In 1603, the crowns of Scotland and England unified. In 1788, Mozart completed his Symphony No. 40 in G minor. In 1799, Napoleon beat some Egyptians. In 1837, the first commercial use was made of a telegraph. In 1920, the first use of two-way radio across the Atlantic. In 1866, U.S. Grant was promoted to General of the Army, the first to achieve it. In 1908, MSG was isolated for mass production. In 1909, the first flight by airplane across the Channel in 37 minutes. In 1917, income tax is introduced in Canada as a temporary measure. In 1946, Bikini Atoll experienced its first atomic blast. On the same day, in 1946, Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin began their partnership as a comedy team in Atlantic City. In 1959, a hovercraft was used to traverse the Channel in just over 2 hours. In 1976, Viking took a picture of a face on Mars. In 1993, a church massacre was was carried out in South Africa. The killer's largest time served was 5.5 years for the hate crime. That's it for today. If you come by this video at a later date and you like it, like it! Also feel free to comment and share. Spread the love. Be well.